Hey guys, welcome to day 3 of 21 days of emotional intelligence with Coach LDA. Thank you for sticking around. I hope day 1 and day 2 was really worth your time. And today we're going to be talking about triggers of emotions, like understanding your triggers, what triggers you. Now, if I ask you what are triggers, what would you tell me? So triggers are things that set you off, right? Things that cause you strong emotional reaction. It's like your button. For some people they'll say, oh, he knows his mumu button or she knows his mumu button. You see that thing that if they do to you, it would let loose, like you would literally go off the roof. Those are triggers. Some people will say things, while we're younger, some people say things like, regardless of what we are saying, if you dare mention my mother, I'm going to let loose with you. So for that kind of person, mentioning a dear one, a beloved one to them is a trigger. So you need to identify what your triggers are. It could be a situation, it could be a thought, it could be a person. Now, triggers can make you angry, they can make you frustrated, and yes, they can actually make you happy, right? So triggers are things that helps you know. So if you know what would trigger you, you would start to pay attention to them. So one of the things we're talking about now is trying to control how you react, trying to control your emotions. So if I told you that if you're someone that gets angry a lot, or if you're someone that's, it's always on the edge with people, and I tell you that if you're able to maintain a 3-day streak without getting angry, I'm going to gift you maybe 500,000 naira. I'm sure the things you'll be asking yourself is how, and that's what we are trying to let ourselves know. Beyond monetary impact, there's so much more that you would benefit if you start to manage your emotions. There are some things that can never be replaced when you do not manage them well, right? Yes, some people will hear sorry, but some people, sorry does not necessarily cut it for them. So you need to be able to work on your triggers, right? Know the things that if they do to you can make you flip. So when you see those things coming, you either run away from it or you rephrase your thought towards those things, right? So I'll go back to the example of someone said, oh, if we are having a conversation, probably an argument, and you mention my mom, I would let loose with you. It means for someone could say that the interpretation of that is, you mean that my mom did not raise me well. And if you insinuate that my mom did not raise me well, because I know the kind of hard work that my mom has actually put in for me, I would defend her. And that might be a reason. So that's where the trigger is. So mentioning that person's mom means that, oh, you're trying to insult his or her mom, and it makes them angry. Now, if you paraphrase that trigger and say, oh, I also know someone that will say that if you have my type, you would appreciate it. If you're having a conversation and you speak ill of my parents, it means your parents did not do well. If you value your mom, you would not insult my mom. Can you see the flip side? So this person understands their trigger. So when you understand your trigger, you're either running away from that trigger or you're paraphrasing that trigger. So instead of you getting angry, actually pitying that person to say, oh, I wish you had a mom like mine. If you had the kind of mother I have, you would know that you don't insult mothers because mothers are doing well. And that way, instead of you saying negative word back, just, leave the seed for that person. So understanding your triggers are very important. Now, how does trigger impact on our emotions? Now, trigger makes our emotions stronger, right? I just told you how the way something triggers you, it makes you stronger. It helps you change your behavior. So if there's a certain way you've been behaving, if there's a certain emotion that you keep having, if it is sadness that you keep having and you want to change, you need to know what triggers it. Some people, it is excessive deep thoughts about the past. Some people, it is thinking like, oh, if I had done this, I wouldn't have done this. And by the time they spend 3 hours thinking about it, boom, they are feeling very sad, gloomy, and they just don't want to do anything again. So you need to, as a teenager, you need to identify these emotions, right? These triggers so that you can manage your emotions. Now, it also makes people act impulsively without thinking. So, like I mentioned, when people say things and interpret it in a certain way, you start to go irrational, right? When you're triggered, so if you want to change that behavior, you need to start looking at, oh, what are my triggers and how you can, because they actually affect you. Now, what are the examples of triggers that we have? Now, there are certain individuals or behaviors. There are some people that they just want to, permit me to say, probably they are sent from another world just to trigger you. I think that's the word. And they would go to any length to actually get you angry. You are saying things and you're telling them, I do not find this thing funny. Could you please stop? And they just go over it and over again. So there are certain individuals in our lives that they could be triggers. And part of the painful part of my job is I've had some young adults, some teenagers, some preteens that their parents are actually their triggers. Some people, it's their teachers. Some people, it's the people very close to them. Sometimes it's their siblings. And you need to know that you have to manage it. If you have certain individuals around you that continues to trigger you to act in a certain way, if you join our WhatsApp group, I could schedule a pre-call with you, maybe just one session to understand better and help you identify those triggers and how you can work around them, right? And if it is places, some people, when they get to a certain place, they are likely to misbehave. Stop going there, right? Some people is bright lights, some people is loud noises. Pay attention to what makes your emotion change, right? For me, I don't like blackouts. So if I want to feel very productive, I like that the blinds are open, the light is on. It helps me feel happy. So know what makes you feel happy. Don't say I'm not feeling good and you pull down all the curtain, turn out the lights. It makes you feel gloomy, right? So you need to know. So remember the second session we talked about journaling, and we're going to go there again. When you feel, so now we need to start to look at the how to identify your triggers. When you feel in a certain way, when you notice that, okay, remember we talked about naming your emotions in the previous yesterday, when you get there and you realize that you're feeling sad, you sit down and ask yourself, how did I get here? Or even when you're feeling happy, you ask yourself, what happened before I started feeling this way? And when you look back, you realize that, oh, for every time I am with this person, maybe this person did something and I'm not forgiving him or her. And every time I see him, I feel very angry. And it affects how I act. So you have to journal those things down and you now start to ask yourself how you can go about it. Now, why do certain things trigger us? It comes from past experience, like I said. Maybe somebody got you angry, somebody did something to you, and you've not resolved the emotions. So it means that for every emotion that you're feeling, one of the ways to help yourself is to identify and deal with that emotion, right? So someone says you are looking like this and it pains you. You have to have that conversation. I know some people will say, well, I'm not bold enough. We have our, self-esteem, self-confidence courses that we've done. When you join the WhatsApp group or send us a DM, we could point you to those things. But again, you need to know and address past emotions. Now, how do you manage your trigger? Remember, you pause and breathe. You take a moment to breathe in for and count at least 10 before you react. Now, you need to also recognize those things and plan for them ahead. So when you're in your room, part of the things that helped me while I was growing, because I felt like I was bullied a bit. So one of the things I do is At some point, I didn't know that. I kept reacting. So there are some people that did some things to me, and I will realize that, oh, if I see this person and this person does this to me, this is what I will do. And I found out that I've reacted those negative things over and over. So even when it's not that person, when someone similar does that thing, I just start to react. So what I did for myself in the room is I asked myself, oh, if someone comes now and does this to me, what will you do? I was okay, I'll do this. So I started to choose my reactions to my emotions in my private time, in my room when nothing has happened. So when I find myself there, because I've reacted that thing over and over, I am able to choose better. Now, you need to know that your triggers would help you build emotional resilience. And the more you understand your triggers, the easier it is for you to manage your emotions and control them. Now, wrapping up, we talked about you recognizing your triggers and understanding your emotional reactions. I told you about you pausing to think, take a breather. Now, you need to manage your triggers. I said I could open up the conversation to few people for one-on-one, people that actually are struggling with their emotions and they want to. I could sit down with you and identify what your triggers are, but you have to first of all join the WhatsApp group. Then you need to grow emotionally by learning your triggers, react your triggers, and manage them effectively. I hope today has been thoughtful and you'll be able to learn one or two things. See you tomorrow, day 4. Bye.